where you can find the latest news and fashion stories about Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Today we have some interesting news for you. Catherine stole spotlight in most eye-catching outfits as she made a fashion-trending style. I still recall Princess Catherine's face during her first Christmas walkabout after she returned from her treatment for cancer. Although Christmas has been over for over 5 months, I still remember it vividly to this day. As a result, I took the choice to go on a trip in order to see how she so captivated me with her sense of style at these events. The events that take place on Christmas morning in Sandringham are always the same. When the royal family emerges, the procession to the church starts, and the audience begins to gather in a peaceful manner along the way. There is no official introduction, no spectacular arrival, and no moment that is structured to demand attention. And yet, Catherine is the centre of attention. This is not because she requires it, but rather because she has, over the course of time, educated the audience to look more closely. The focus of her Christmas clothing is not on putting on a show. The foundation of it is accuracy. And it is precisely this perfection, repeated, honed, and layered year after year, that has transformed a straightforward stroll into one of the most scrutinised fashion occasions in the calendar of the royal family. At the beginning of her life, Catherine's Christmas appearances were characterised by a strict sense of discipline. In 2011, she had just been married and was about to take on a role that was being followed by people all over the globe. She decided to wear a structured coat dress with a velvet cap, which seemed to be completely in line with the expectations of the royal family. A crisp tailoring, a regulated silhouette, and a palette that was soft enough to prevent taking attention away from senior figures were all characteristics of the garment. There was an instant and comforting reaction from the general people at the moment. A number of people referred to her as absolutely acceptable, graceful, and everything a duchess ought to be. However, fashion experts saw that underlying that seeming simplicity was something more deliberate. After some time had passed, a royal-style commentator emphasised that she was not engaging in safe behaviour. She was gaining an understanding of how to limit visibility. What you are saying is completely different. The transition was slight but significant by the time she included tartan in her Christmas costume in the year 2013. There was a design that was strongly based in British tradition that was carried by the structured coat, which was nonetheless fitted to perfection. Visually, it linked her to the Sandringham environment, while at the same time allowing her to retain the serenity characteristic of her part. The response from fans was quite positive, with many describing the appearance as very British and so perfect for Christmas. But experts brought attention to the more fundamental plan. She is gaining familiarity, a knowledgeable individual observed. Rather than just appearing inside the tradition, she is joining it and becoming a part of it. Sometime in the middle of the 2010s, that familiarity started to develop into confidence. During the year 2015, Catherine made her debut wearing a coat by Max Mara that had a rich green colour. This was the first time that her Christmas appearance seemed to be less hesitant and more confident. The construction of the coat, which had strong shoulders, crisp lines, and a waist that was properly defined, gave her presence without making her seem heavy. Her style brought layers of texture, such as suede boots, leather gloves, and a fur-trimmed cap, which softened the entire composition. The richness of the green gave depth to the overall composition. The change was instantly obvious to the audience. When someone commented, they said, "This is her look." It is not that she is trying anymore, she is simply being. Those who criticise fashion express the same attitude. According to the observation of one editor, there is a difference between dressed appropriately and appearing like you are confident. It is at this very time when she begins to cross the boundary. Catherine increased her level of self-assurance by wearing a Miu Miu checkered peacoat in 2017, which was 2 years after she had first shown it. The pattern offered a feeling of movement, the cut had a somewhat more relaxed feel to it, and the entire design brought a sense of modernism that had not been evident previously. The responses were contradictory, but they were instructive. Several members of the audience referred to it as fresh, young, and unexpected. A number of people pointed out that despite the change, it still seemed completely right. This equilibrium was the thing that stuck out to the specialists. According to the words of a fashion expert, she is pushing the limits. However, she never fails to break them. This is her greatest strength. It was no longer necessary for Catherine to test anything by the year 2018. When she arrived in Sandringham in that year, she was wearing a striking red coat designed by Catherine Walker, and the impact was felt almost immediately. The colour alone was enough to position her in the visual centre of the royal group, and the tailoring, which was sharp, elongated and precise, reinforced her power. Instantaneity and unanimity of opinion were the response. A supporter remarked, "She took complete control of the situation." That is not only a matter of style, it is power. Professionals were even more forthright. "The colour red is not a neutral option," observed a fashion historian who specialises in royal costume. "It is a declaration of physical presence." In addition, she wore it as if she was someone who was totally aware of her situations. However, the events that transpired after the moment made it much more captivating. Catherine decided to take a break from that intensity in 2019, opting instead to wear a grey coat with green accents rather than another colour. The appearance was more subdued and reserved, yet it was not any less focused on purpose. The proportions were balanced, the palette was under control, and the tailoring of the garments remained crisp. Those who purchased it referred to it as elegant, calming, and effortlessly polished. Moreover, specialists saw it as something that was far more serious. One hairdresser made the observation that she does not depend on effect. When she decides to utilise it is up to her. What gives it its potency is just that. Despite the fact that the year 2020 caused disruptions to royal customs, Catherine's outfit remained essentially the same. Even in a more subdued environment, when the Sandringham procession was not there, she emerged in a structured coat that preserved the trademark mix of polish and restraint that she brought to her appearance. Consistency was something that fans admired. There was a remark that stated, "Even when everything changes, she doesn't." In addition, this constancy turned out to be a distinctive characteristic of her style. One knowledgeable individual said that identity is established in situations like these. Not when everything is perfect, but when it isn't. That is the phrase. 2021 marked the beginning of a new period for Catherine's Christmas outfit. One that was not only characterised by style, but also by individuality. The launch of the brown plaid coat by Blaise Milano was a significant turning point in the fashion industry. The earthy tones of the plaid helped to strongly establish the coat's connection to the Sandringham environment, while the powerful lapels, tight waist, and structural design of the coat gave it an air of authority. It had a natural feel about